the facility body, and maybe the structure might help. So I'm going to ask the other two student board members, but if you guys come up with something, we can talk about that in the near future as well. So thank you guys for your presentation. I'm going to pivot to the superintendent report. It's too bad that the staff who was here didn't stick around. Kind of a drive-by, I feel. One is misinformation. So I'd like to take a second just to kind of talk about it. You know, the district got the RAF for this decision on facilities, and quite frankly, this started with Mr. E when he was a principal. He presented the idea of cross-disciplinary. Then Mr. E moved to the district office. Steve became principal, and we have at least 4 or 5, maybe even more, settings where Steve met with staff and talked about the changes to the facility, the master plan, the educational value that was going to be tied up to it. And even then, and I don't have the exact date in front of me. Again, my point is this came from conversations from principals about vision aligned to the facility. When those conversations, for some reason, weren't well received. The conversations were centered around STEAM. We ran a bond measure. We ran the bond measure. Our voters paid 41 point whatever million dollars, Peter, and within that statement was STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, arts, math. The vision that was painted by Mr. Caminiti and J.K. Architect was the upper campus was the STEAM. We have all those types of courses, science, math, the arts, foreign languages meets an art requirement. We have the arts there. We have the engineering, the technology classes up there. The lower campus was going to be humanities. So we got caught in the middle of a decision that was fully vetted where stakeholders were involved, including teachers, community, administration, district administration. So the disconnect, I don't know where the disconnect is. The voters voted to support the school district with $42 million to configure facilities. The challenge moving forward is, and going back to 2019, 2020, there was a workshop with Mr. Patton there. We got sideswiped by COVID, and maybe those conversations didn't carry forward, but it was always the intention of the principals to make this happen when the facilities were done. It also was reported back by Mr. Caminiti that the teachers weren't happy then. So absent of anything other than doing what they're always doing, we're not going to make any change. I would argue that we deeply care about staff in the sense that we spent endless hours, and I believe there's only one teacher that was really active, thank you, Mike, in the bond measure. Facilities that significantly improve that campus and the work condition for our staff. We can go down the road of collective bargaining and making sure our employees are well compensated. We can point to a lot of things, but anytime we make a decision that someone doesn't like and they've been part of, we get caught and put in the middle. And no thank you to the facilities. I still wait for the thank you for moving the band room out of the upper science room building, or thank you for the new technology. It's always that we don't do enough. So maybe we can do a better job of showing our appreciation, but I think relationships are reciprocal. And it's frustrating that something that was rooted from our voters, our voter base, supported and in this community does not support traditionally bonds, taxation. They supported us, their vision, we communicated the vision, and then 2 years ago, or whenever it was Mr. Caminiti presented it, there was still something they weren't happy about. And now today it's basically leave us alone, let us continue in our classrooms and the why is centered around, we're juggling a lot of things. We don't have the respect for our community and what they voted for. So a little frustrated. I understand change. I know change is not easy, but this was centered on an academic reason. Our math scores and our science scores are not very good. We cannot continue to do the same things over and over. So getting math and science teachers to have more conversation and partner makes a lot of sense. But this just didn't come out of right field. It was an intentional, collaborative, inclusive, supported by our community process. So as much as I think I want to have empathy because I understand we've gone through many changes in COVID, but when is the right time? When we've spaded the ground, maybe not in the last year and a half as much because of COVID, but it was already outlined. So I don't know if there's a viable solution other than to continue to move forward with what the principal is advocating and in supporting the vision that our taxpayers supported, our principals supported, and teachers had a chance to have a voice in. STEAM, upper campus, beautiful facility. The lower campus, humanities. I know there's other perspectives, but we just came out of a school at Del Oro that I would say 80% of teachers moved?
At least.
At least 80%. So,
Twice.
yeah, some twice. And I think Mr. Caminiti was generous, and when math moved out, he didn't want to move math at that time because he wanted to make sure the construction was done, and then he wanted to make the move to what we supported in our facility master plan, which was inclusive, and recognizing it wasn't the right time. And it was facility driven. Now the facility's done, and when is the right time? And is there educational value? Our decisions are rooted in educational value, right? And I would say that moving humanities and having a humanities focus and having a STEAM focus has been the plan since day one. If 50 teachers are upset, I'm sorry. I don't know how to get them to be part of a voice and understand something that's been in the works for 5 years or more. And to recognize our scores are not good enough, to recognize we also answered to a tax base that supported this campus and presented beautiful facilities, and then get to the culture of reciprocal appreciation. I think we show our appreciation, but too often we don't get the appreciation back. And that goes to our administration as well. So I don't have a solution other than I'd like us to continue to support what our principals have outlined and what we outlined to our tax base. And we will support teachers in getting the movement so it's not a significant impact on them. Which, Peter, did you and Randy connect yet to talk a little bit about what that move would look like and what we need to do to support?
Just preliminarily, or you can box that kind of stuff in.
I've been working with the department chairs and Chris Lee on boxes, where to put them, how to number them, all labeled, store containers just to get rid of their junk, on 2 different spots on campus, trying to, each department kind of can pick what rooms they want in that general area. So I met with every department that's being affected by this. What would work there, how can we help? You know, like Soul Stays, I mean, it's not fun, I mean, let's be honest. But they were saying, okay, in those rooms where the math is, can we add some like Bluetooth speakers because they do a little more video than the other ones? I said, sure, why not? That's something we can actually fund. Or do they get a couple of regular TVs that they HDMI through the ViewSonic so they can have 2 in there? Yes. I mean, that's supporting what they need in the budget.
And I'd also mention that this is not really the driver in this. We have done facility walks, and we looked at 3 things, all right? The classroom's conducive to student learning. Sometimes for the students, we used to see where classrooms had 25% or 15% of class consumed with teacher space. file cabinets, office, and students were compressed. So we wanted to get away from some of the clutter. So the next one was clutter, and the third one was cleanliness, orderliness and cleanliness. To this day, we still have it at a campus that we walked for the last 5 years. I know the board's got frustrated. We continue to do this. It's not significant change. Every classroom, Peter, is equipped with the same desk, teacher workstation.
We have new furniture showing up because we actually had a little bit more students at Placer. So we have 80 desks showing up, so that we'll have a full complement of all the classrooms.
Every classroom has
Teacher station and then student desk.
and the same technology.
Yes.
So when a teacher moves to a different setting, the environment's the same, other than maybe the square footage might be plus or minus.
Yeah. Yes.
And gives us an opportunity maybe to get a dumpster, and if some things don't belong, and to align to the vision, which should be centered on education, which, quite frankly, I love Placer High School. I'm not one stop short of saying that we hired a principal that I believe will put his eye on and his eye on the challenge of student achievement. We need to make sure that's in the forefront, and that was what's in the forefront of this. Come up here, and I don't like it. There's all 50 teachers that don't like this. So we got to do a better job of making sure, and even then, we may not still get agreement on it. And there's other stakeholders we answer to. But I don't like that we get called out, and the things that we are doing that were listed there that feel like a laundry list, those are all things for students. So that's what we do. Call it
Not
out.
all of them were for students. This board made sure that we didn't lay off a single teacher when the economy tanked.
Mhm.
So not everything that you mentioned is for students. Some was for the teachers and the staff that worked at these schools.
Yeah. So, and I know during COVID times, we put ourselves out there to protect our staff. For other districts, their staff was under fire. We were responsive. We did everything we did, kept the public to the degree last year, not so much, the year before when we opened up schools. So it goes back to making sure that we do a better job of communicating. When we don't communicate and they don't like the answer, this approach is not the right approach. We come in here and not be inclusive of the processes and honoring the processes that were up to that point. Administration is a stakeholder. The tax base is a stakeholder. Students are a stakeholder. Parents are a stakeholder. Teachers, administration, we serve our public. And I think we can do it better. And with all the monies and resource, we've got to support our site administrator. I don't know where, and I'd love to know this, Randy, where is a district caught in the middle of this? Other than we got a bond measure to improve facilities. So that would be something to reflect on.
You know, and we talked about it when I first took, because Stephen told me, talked about, okay, we got construction going on, we'll probably wait for the following year, just because, nothing was built. The Learning Commons was delayed by about 8 months, and so this year, there were still delays in the COVID. We really didn't know, can we even do this? I don't know when it's gonna be a good time, honestly. I mean, the ones that signed, I've talked to some, they're like, I just felt like supporting the teachers. They're so like, hey, this is a good change. Nobody wants to move. I mean, none of us want to move from our house, but when we talk about the possibility, is the collaboration. I mean, I'm looking at Solstice and English in that lower campus with how they support students and how much, we're talking about keeping the kids on campus. Can you imagine Scott Berry out there right there, or the English teachers? All our Avid teachers are right there now. There's some positive that the teachers are starting to talk about, being able to do that. And like you said, science and math, I mean, maybe we do a lot more cross-curricular stuff. And Amanda Roberts could teach math and science. She's got both credentials. There's a lot of things you can do. So, I mean, it's kind of like, they don't want to do it, but now they're slowly thinking, okay, this could be good, but, you know, nobody wants to lock. I mean, I know that when I was teaching, they're tired, and like, I don't want to box my stuff up.
Is there anything, any comments from your standpoint?
No, I just gotta get back with Randy, because I wanna make sure, that he's got everything he's got for them, so they're up and running by the time August comes around. And then I know I also have to work with Jeff Patton, because the idea of, when we look at the plan you mentioned with JK, one of those rooms is supposed to become a teacher collaboration space. And so we have not jumped on that yet. We identified one room.
Your mic on?
Oh, no. We identified one room as a TCC room, but that would probably be better as a classroom and using one of the smaller rooms. But that's something I want to talk with Randy about, and at least get it outfitted with some similar things you see in the new TCC rooms, but it may not have, obviously, the full-on kitchenette or, I guess, privacy room, if you want to call that yet, but at least have something where they can go and call a pre-TCC area for them.
Well, Steve, I know you're in the back room there. Is there anything that you would add that solidifies that you went through a process or that?
I mean, other than our workshops that we did with JK where plans were laid out in front, I mean, it was always talked about from the very beginning, but I definitely held back from during construction until it was completed, but that was always the plan to have the ability to do cross-curricular collaboration, and there was multiple opportunities that was talked about casually, formally, and it wasn't popular then, and I think, like all of us, we forgot things during COVID the last 2 years that didn't rise to the surface and out of sight, out of mind, and now it's the forefront, so I understand, like Randy said, nobody wants to move, but there was a formal process that I was part of, so that's a little bit of a bummer, that impression that was shared, but it is what it is.
Thank you, Steve. I would have loved to express my frustration. And superintendents usually don't do that, but where I'm at in my career, I was frustrated with the approach. Put the district in the crossfire and not to celebrate. I also think that we need to make sure that that is a site conversation, not a district conversation. So I think there's some things that need to change in our approach and recognizing, getting involved in decision-making. Mike, I'm sorry.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to approach the mic and speak.
Right.
We had a conversation yesterday, and maybe I wasn't clear. You're dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with as our union president, the same personalities. So the presentation tonight was not very effective, and I apologize for me at the way that it came through, because I know what you guys have done. I know that we've worked together to support teachers and things like that. I think where the problem is, we're talking about COVID and everything else, putting the brakes on things. Everything else that we've done, we have sat down and we've really, really laid the groundwork with teacher in-service presentations, with collaboration between teachers and administration. I think the general feeling is that we're jumping into this collaboration thing without really laying the groundwork. Sure, it was discussed when we passed the bond and they were planning classrooms and things like that. But the general feeling that I'm getting from our people after talking to them is that there was not a lot of hard conversations that were serious about collaborating between departments. And I think that's where the frustration is. It's just now they're being told they're going to move to collaborate. Well, there's no collaboration plan. When everything that we do, from equitable grading to PLCs to common assessments, we've done a great job, I think, in our district of really laying the ground so that people know whether they agree with it, whether they disagree with it, whether they really don't care. At least they're going into it with their eyes wide open. And I think this is a situation where people feel like they're going into it without a lot of input and without a lot of conversation ahead of time. So, and I'm going to take some advice that you gave me, is that we have a squeaky wheel, and that squeaky wheel is sometimes the message is not representative of the whole.
And so my frustration
Yeah.
is because I do think we can both improve. and communication, we both can improve in valuing and saying thank you and those little things. And COVID pulled us apart more than brought us together. I think we can do this the Placer way and make it work. And I don't think, I can ask the principals out here, what principal would want to come into a school in their first year or second year and move every teacher?
I understand that. No, and I get that.
Right? And that's what we're going to be asking of your new guy.
I understand that 100%. I understand the logistics of it and the, what we want to get done. But I just think that I don't even know if it has to be this year, but the conversations have to be had at the table where everybody knows this is the direction we're going to go, and this is important to our district, and this is something that we are going to, try and hang our hat on, like the other things that I mentioned earlier. And I think that's where the frustration is. I signed the petition, so my name's on there in support of our teachers because I understand they're totally frustrated. And I've tried to communicate why they're frustrated. I've talked to every one of the department chairs. I've talked to Randy, talked to Peter. So that's where the frustration is coming. I don't think it's a lack of appreciation. And yes, teachers sometimes are spoiled and don't say thank you enough. And we'll own that. But I just think that the conversations, deeper conversations haven't been had, and that's where the frustration is coming from. And yeah, the move. Nobody wants to move, and it's been a long 2 years, and we're finally coming out of it, and this has been an exhausting year, so that just kind of compounds it. So that's...
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Can I ask a question of Mike?
Yeah.
Mike, you're going to have a new principal starting in August. So if you put this off for a year, then are they all going to be mad at him because now he's making the move?
Well, I think that if we have the conversations and make it a priority, if this is the direction that we feel we're going to go to improve test scores and things like that, then I think may not be super popular, but at least there'll be a reason behind it other than we just want you to collaborate, because that's the way people feel right now. There's not a plan. There's not a plan. We haven't sat down and said, hey, science and math, these are the things that we can do and these are the things that we expect for you to work on together to improve our test scores and to make learning better for our kids. Those conversations haven't happened. The only conversation that's happened is you're moving. That's the way people feel. Now, whether I'm totally missing out, I mean, I have no skin in the game. I'm not in one of those departments, but if those conversations have been had, then maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but that's just the impression and the feedback that I've gotten from the people in those departments.
Thank you.
Anything else to report out?
Yeah, I have thank you, Mike, for letting me vent and sharing your perspective. Again, I would have loved to said that to the teachers that were here. And so hopefully out there in TV land, you were paying attention and heard the other side of it. There was a process that we went through, and it was aligned to the STEAM, not only collaboration, that's a benefit, right? But getting certain groups together. Yeah, if I can find my notes, I wrote it on the back of something else. Give me a second here to get organized. I don't know what I did with it.
This might have one for you.
No, she gave it to me. I might go slower. You stole it from me. Here it is. All right, sorry about that. Student engagement at Del Oro, great group of students. You have in your pieces, and Kim, we haven't in your folders, the feedback. And we have kept that confidential, but we do share things that, you should hear. So at our next champion meeting, don't let us forget to call those out. Happy birthday. 22, 23 board meetings, a little different try. Always go each time into the community. And we do that, and we do the student showcase. What we would want to do is go into each community and give more time to our joint board meetings. So when we go to Loomis, it's a joint board meeting. When we go to Auburn, Placer, it's a joint board meeting. same thing all the way around. And then we'll still do the second board meeting, but the showcase with the students will be here. I think the same thing we found out in talking with Loomis, that there's new board members that we don't know. There's relationships kind of similar to what that we were just talking about that we need to reestablish. And so we can become available as a collective board. Now, I can hear Dr. Tucker over there saying, you promised me that we would get to one board meeting a month. And I said, well, Mo didn't let me. And so now, we not only do we have two board meetings a month still, we now are going to have a joint meeting in each community, and we're going to have two board workshops. So, like a good politician, I didn't keep my word, but I think this, quite frankly, it's very important that we do this. So we're going to try it. I always felt the last few years, those kind of felt like we're just trying to get through it. And because we had our next meeting, a little bit more dedicated time. So if we can evaluate that and see how it works. Des looked at those months where we have two board meetings, or one board